Thank you, everyone, for coming. Um, the puja goes on here, the worship of the deities goes on here 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and has for over 50 years. Without a break. So starting at 5 o'clock in the morning, and even before that, up until 8, 9 o'clock at night. The service on the altar goes on, irrespective of what's going on. There was a really bad forest fire that, burned up to the top of the world, burned close. And then the deities were moved somewhere else. But then the place where they were moved to, the worship was done there. Or, we did some work, we put some marble on the altar, and then when we did that, the deities were moved, and then the worship just went on. And the worship is fairly elaborate. Probably on average about 30 to 35 hours a day are spent just doing the service on the altar for the deities. Whether it's cooking and offering the food or cleaning or what have you, it's not a joke. It's like running a small business, but just focused around making of garlands, dressing the deities, bathing them, putting them to sleep, waking them up, doing the artis, cooking the food, cleaning the altar, offering the food, doing arti again, 5 artis a day, multiple cooked offerings a day as well, multiple raw offerings a day. So for the temple, whether there's a tropical storm or not is just entirely in some ways inconsequential. If the building was going to blow down, then we'd move the deities and do the worship somewhere else. And if the building's not going to blow down, then we just do the worship. People come and make sure everything goes on. But this is the first. I was born here in Southern California. I'm 51 years old now. I did travel, but I'm quite certain that in the last 51 years, there has not been a tropical storm in Southern California. And from what I read, it's been 84 years. So, older than my parents. That's the wind blowing through, right? Do me a favor. Go outside. Get on a chair, pull the fan out going this way, and close that window. Not that one. That one's the problem. I'm not concerned about it personally, but I'm afraid some of the wind and the rain might get on Srila Prabhupada. So I was going to do it myself when I came in, but I thought maybe it's not that bad, and so now I just want to make sure that he's not getting drizzled on or something like that. Go outside and let him know that if it's not possible to pull the window down easily, then it's okay. He can leave it as is. If it's not possible. The window may be a little stuck from the rain, so if it's difficult, I don't want him breaking the window. So, the tropical storm in Southern California is a really unusual circumstance. generally speaking, rain in Southern California occurs exclusively in the winter months and when it's cold. So there'll be a significant drop of temperature, and then the rain will come, and it's unpleasant because it's cold, it's rainy, it's unpleasant, you have to wear a jacket. And so this is the first time in my life in Southern California I can remember the rain being warm and balmy and pleasant. It's like this in like much of the world. For example, in India, what happens every year is it gets impossibly hot. I don't know why you're looking there. The class is here. Like, how does it feel if you guys are just looking there? A little bit of self-control. Thank you. In India, it gets impossibly hot, like 120 degrees, like that hot, like it hits 50, just under 120 degrees. Were you raised in Delhi?
Sometimes I don't get it.
It's horrible. Everyone you have to use that powder. You put on that powder because you're itching. You know the powder, like or whatever they call it. You get heat rashes. It's so hot. It's unbelievable. Did you figure it out? Okay, so then he should put something on the outside of the window so the rain doesn't get in. Otherwise, it's worse. At least the fan blocks some of the wind and rain from coming in. So in India, it gets impossibly hot. And then the rain comes, and when the rain comes, it's a godsend. It's so hot. It's so hot it makes you sick. So hot that during the day you can't even function. You function in the early morning, you function at night, but in the daytime you just kind of do a whole lot of nothing. I'm assuming it's different if you have a bunch of money in India, then you just have a big air conditioner and you're okay. You didn't grow up with an air conditioner, right? It wasn't. Nowadays it's probably pretty common. Back then it was not common at all. It gets so hot at night you can't sleep. I don't know if you ever did this, but you dip your gumsha in a bucket of water and you turn on the fan and you put it over your body, and then the fan goes on you and it creates an air cooler effect, what's called a swamp cooler, where you blow air through water and it creates a cooling effect. But then on a bad day, that cloth that you put on your body, it dries in maybe 5 or 10 minutes. So you spend your whole night dipping a cloth into a bucket of water and putting it on yourself just to barely sleep. It's like 100 at night, 110, 120 in the daytime. It's brutal. And then the rain comes, and when the rain comes, right before the rain comes, it gets awful. It gets also really humid and also hot. It's the worst. But then the rain comes, the clouds break, the rain comes. It's crazy humid, but the temperature drops 30 degrees instantaneously. It's unbelievable. You go from getting close to 120 to all of a sudden you're in your mid-90s, low 90s, something like that. And then there's water. And so water in the monsoon time, although it's a dangerous time and there's this mixing of heat and moisture and there's floods that occur, the rain is welcomed. You're grateful it rains because it's so painful to live through the heat. And so in Sanskrit literature, you find that rain is spoken of very favorably. You never hear of cold rain and miserable rain. Such descriptions aren't there. Rather, rain is a blessing from God, revitalizing the earth, bringing relief, And so you find the imagery or the metaphor of rain used in Sanskrit literature regularly to convey that something auspicious, something good, something valuable is occurring. And the rain is really experienced like a blessing because you don't create it. You may sow seeds in the ground. You may even if you water your plants, you depend on the rain to replenish your water supply. So although you may turn on a tap or turn on a pump that pumps water from a reservoir onto your fields, the actual source of that reservoir being filled with water is the rain that comes every year. Wells depend on rain. Wells run dry if it doesn't rain. There's not an unlimited source. The water goes through the ground and then gets down to the well, it gets filtered, it gets collected, and then you have a well. So rain for the Vedic peoples, and up until the modern day, has a very warm and fuzzy and comfortable and pleasing and auspicious, and it feels like a blessing to people from a part of the world where they depend on rainfall, which is everywhere. You just may not know it. We're also dependent on rainfall. We just don't really think about it. And particularly because in Southern California, the rain falls when it's kind of miserable out. And then, you know, we think of rain as being this negative thing. But the truth is the whole world depends on rain. And in many parts of the world where it rains during the summer season, like in Mexico, down towards the equator, you know, even just a couple hours flight from here, everything gets dry up until about May, June, and then the rain comes in June and everything becomes lush. And things, you know, we have this in the wintertime. If you look out and as you drive in through the Shire to get to Laguna Beach, it gets all dry and, you know, it's just a tinderbox waiting to happen, waiting for a spark to go up in flames. But then in the wintertime it rains and everything becomes lush and green. So in India in the summertime that same phenomenon happens. So I was thinking about this today because it's an unusual day. It's not cold and miserable. It's quite pleasant and nice. And despite the warnings of the tropical storm, it drizzled a bit. Maybe at certain points of the day it was raining moderately. Definitely not severely. And there's wind, but it's not like huff and puff and blow your house down wind. It's a little bit more than a pleasant wind. It's perhaps slightly unpleasant, but still, because it's so warm and nice, it's kind of nice. You can go sit outside in the rain with your shirt off and be totally comfortable right now. Anyways, I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about how this is very similar to how I've experienced rain in Malaysia, in Singapore, in Thailand, in Japan, in Hong Kong, in Australia, in New Zealand, in India, in South America, even North America, but towards the equator, also in South America. And so this, even honestly, if you go like to, let's say like in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where I used to spend time in the summer every year, and other places within the U.S., Missouri, where I also used to spend time. Out on the East Coast, where I also spent time. Washington, D.C. area, North Carolina. It gets really hot in the summertime, and it's miserable. And then the rain rolls in the afternoon for maybe an hour. Clouds just gather in the sky, and it dumps water, and the temperature just drops about 20 degrees. And it's pleasant, and then the rest of the day is pleasant. The next day it gets sweltering, painfully hot again, and then buckets pour for about an hour, and then it's pleasant again. Right? You experienced this in Dallas, right? Yeah. So as I'm thinking about, really, Southern California is its own universe. It's not just in exotic places in the world rain is experienced pleasantly. Actually, even in the United States, rain is in many places experienced very, very pleasantly. We're weird in that it's almost exclusively on cold and frigid and uncomfortable days that we experience rain. It's very, very rare to have a good rain. Sometimes a little bit of drizzle, but to have a good rain on a hot summer day when it's 70 degrees out and it's raining, it's a really unique experience. And it's the first tropical storm we've had in 84 years. I'm assuming 84 years means probably there was no weather service. I'm assuming they say since 84 years, they mean, and that's when the weather service started, so who knows how long it was before then. Or maybe there was a report in the 40s, who knows. I guess probably they had weather reports in the 40s, so maybe there was one. Anyway, I was thinking of a particular verse that some of you, we have a real Spartan crowd, but we cooked, so you'll all get to eat. We probably cooked for a decent-sized crowd, so you'll probably get to eat 3 times as much as normal, 5 times as much as normal, something like that. It's a verse that devotees learn because it's sung in the morning times as part of the Mangalarti, the first arti of the day that happens at 5 a.m. This song is sung. We sing this song in the morning times. And so it's a famous verse. The first line of it's an ashtaka. It's 8 verses. And so it's the first verse of 8 verses. And they all have the same refrain. And so the refrain is Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vindam. Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vindam. So Vande means I pray. I'm praying to what? To Charanara Vindam, to the lotus feet, Shri Guru, of my Guru. I'm praying to the lotus feet of my Guru. Or you would say this in English more standardly, I'm praying to my Guru's lotus feet. And so this is also another trope in Sanskrit literature, that the feet become a focal point when one is speaking with a sense of veneration and respect. So you touch the feet of your parents when you wake up in the morning. At least this is common in villages. I don't know how much it's done nowadays. I also don't know how much it's done in the city, but at least in the village it's very common. Children would touch the feet of their guru every day before school. You used to touch your teacher's feet? No. I'm looking for an old Indian man. I don't see any. All right. Huh? You don't count because you're like my age. We're old, but we're not old enough where that was the norm. In the villages, I would see this. That the kids would come to class, the teacher would be there sitting, and all the kids would come and touch the feet of the guru. Even in Africa, it's very common. Like in Nigeria, when you come in front of your elder, you lay down on the ground in front of them. I was surprised to learn this. But I saw a Nigerian movie. And in the Nigerian movie, all the children, when they came in front of their elders, the village elders or their parents, they prostrated themselves completely. They didn't just bow down or touch the ground. They actually laid on the ground and then jumped up. And I thought, wow, they're giving Dandavat Pranam. They're giving, that's amazing. So this idea of touching the feet of your guru or your teacher or your parents, not looking at them, looking down, you see this in cultures that have a culture of respect. Old world cultures. It's very common. So this idea of I'm offering my obeisances to my gurus, I'm offering my prayers to my guru's lotus feet, it means I'm very respectfully praying to my teacher. Very respectfully praying to him and acknowledging what a great soul he is. How much he or she has helped me. And so I'm filled with a sense of awe and veneration, such that that becomes poetically stated as I offer my obeisances to my guru's lotus feet. What it really means is I'm offering my prayers with great respect and veneration to a person who I recognize as my elder, as far, far above me, far, far beyond me. Someone who's a great guide to me, who's a great source of inspiration and strength. That, instead of saying it like that, you just say I'm offering my obeisances to the lotus feet. They're not even just feet, they're charana aravinda. They're lotus feet. The feet aren't just feet, they're lotus feet. A lotus, that's another thing. If you want to say something that's very, very special, you'll say it's lotus-like. You'll describe it as being lotus. A lotus is a very auspicious flower. Grows out of the mud, but yet itself is clean. It grows out of the water, but itself is dry. It's particularly beautiful. And so the lotus is... I was amazed. I went to Guyana also, where there's warm rain in the summertime. I went to Guyana maybe 30 some odd years ago, 30 whatever, 2-3 years ago. And they were serving us lunch prasad, our lunch meal. And instead of serving it on a leaf plate, they served it on a lotus leaf. Because lotuses are so ubiquitous there, because it's just right on the equator. And so they serve you lunch in a lotus leaf. It's amazing. It's not like a leaf plate, like a banana leaf in South you eat. In North India, you eat off of a leaf plate made out of like a bunch of leaves tied together with sticks. But I'd never eaten off a lotus leaf before. I was amazed. It's also a big cup, so it comes up like this. It's like being given a huge bowl, like a wok, to eat out of a wok. And they make sweet samosas, which was also... I mean, I've had sweet samosas, but that was like a daily fare. And they make halwa, but they make it with coconut oil. So it's a really nice flavor, like a really kind of very specific. Anyway, so the lotus feet of your guru. I'm not just showing my respect, but I'm even glorifying his feet as being lotus-like. The lotus feet of Sri Guru, not just of Guru, but of Sri Guru. Sri is an honorific. I'm offering my obeisances to the lotus feet of Sri Guru. Vande Gudo Sri Charanaravinda. Why are you offering your obeisances to the feet of Guru? Because samsara dava anala lidha loka chanaya karunya ghana tvam. Because the Guru is a rain cloud. Ghana. Ghana means thick. And then sometimes it might refer to a thick cloud. But it also means like thick, solid. Aghana also means a cloud. But it means not thick. Aghana means not thick. So aghana can mean a cloud, because clouds are not thick. Ghana can mean a cloud, because clouds look very thick. And so the word ghana and aghana can both refer to a cloud, depending on the Sanskrit text. Ghana means like a collection of clouds, or a big rain cloud, a large cloud. Gana. Gana tva. The Guru has the quality of being just like a cloud. So I'm offering my obeisance to my Guru's lotus feet, who's like a cloud, who has the qualities of a cloud. He has cloudness. That's what Ganatva means, cloudness. He has cloudness. Karunya Ganatva. He has a quality of cloudness, of a cloud of mercy. Chanaya, who's delivering. Loka, the world, which is lidha, which is suffering or being devoured or being swallowed. Lidha means being swallowed. From li, which means to lick. It's being licked up and swallowed. It's being swallowed by samsara dava anala. It's being swallowed by samsara dava anala, the forest fire. Interestingly, dava and anala also mean fire, but dava also means forest. And so dava anala means forest fire. But dava on its own could mean fire, anala means fire. But when you put them together, then another meaning of dava, which is forest, becomes obvious. And so dava anala means a forest fire. Now, forest fires are unique. Forest fires are not caused by human error. Forest fires are caused by nature. It's just, you can't do anything about it. And amazingly, even here, if you get a significant enough forest fire, they just have to let it burn. They can't do anything about it. We just experienced this in Hawaii, in Maui, in Lahaina, where over 100 people died because the forest didn't get as much rainfall as they usually did. They caught fire. The fire spread in the summertime because the rains had not come and relieved the island from the danger of a conflagration. And so it touched off, got torched, and nothing could stop it. It was like a tinderbox. And burned the whole city. Just destroyed the whole city, where people had lived for generations. Small town, not unlike Laguna Beach. Smaller, actually, about half the size of Laguna Beach, 12,000 people. But a popular tourist destination, just like Laguna Beach. And the forest fire came, and they couldn't stop it. And people died. Many people died. More than 100 people died. I think it's like 114 or something like that. And there's going to be more because many people are lost. They don't know where they are. So, forest fires are these natural events that occur that you can't stop. They're not possible to stop. And they are so ferocious that they swallow everything around them, and you just run. And even sometimes the fire is moving so fast, if you ran, if even you could drive and you couldn't get away from it. Sometimes the fire is moving faster than you could possibly run. You can't even get away. The wind's coming and the fire's moving. 40, 50 miles an hour, just swallowing stuff up, exploding trees. Not even burning the trees. Trees just, the heat is so intense, the trees just explode. So the example in this Sanskrit poem is quite apropos, and it's a timeless example, because as long as human beings exist on this planet, there will be forest fires, and those forest fires will be very dangerous, because what can you do? So, samsara dava anala. Samsara means the cycle of birth and death. So, the people of this world are being swallowed by the forest fire of the cycle of birth and death, and the Guru is like a rain cloud of mercy that's come, Chanaya, to deliver them. to protect them, to deliver them. Tri is the Sanskrit dhatu for protecting, delivering. And so he's come Tranaya for the purpose of delivering the people of this world who are being swallowed by the forest fire of birth and death, of material existence. And in that sense, the Guru is a rain cloud of mercy. Because if there's a forest fire, and it just so happens that a rain cloud happens to fly over a forest fire, the rain cloud is this miracle of nature where thousands, tens of thousands, probably hundreds of thousands or millions of gallons of water, I don't know what the number is, but it must at least be hundreds of thousands of gallons, if not millions of gallons of water, are transported. Definitely in a year, it's millions, tens of millions, are transported over land. It's amazing if you think about it. We could not do such a thing. First of all, it's almost impossible to desalinate ocean waters. You know the guy who made the 5-hour energy drink? There's a little drink they sell in gas stations. I've never drunk it, but I've seen it. It's like fluorescent red and yellow. It's called 5-hour energy. That drink was made by an South Indian Brahmin. And he became a billionaire. And because he's a South Indian Brahmin, pious person, he's not particularly materialistic, and so now he's trying to make the world a better place. And one of the things he's investing in is desalination units, cheap desalination units, because up until now, desalination units to make drinking water out of ocean water is extremely expensive. But he's trying to make it cheap as one of his philanthropic acts, realizing that a water shortage will become a problem. But we can't. But Krishna, he desalinates the ocean water, and then flies it in trucks, like in airplanes. It says like we transport stuff in trucks. If you're in a remote place, you'll bring a truck of water into that place. You'll truck water in. But Krishna is so fancy, he flies the water. He doesn't even bother. He desalinates it, which nobody can do now. We're just fighting to do now. And then he flies it across hundreds of miles. And then rains it down. And that's the water cycle. This amazing feature of nature that makes life possible, along with the photosynthesis and the oxygen-carbon dioxide exchange. These are just amazing features of this world that just go on and we don't think about it, but we're incredibly blessed. And so if there's a forest fire and you're in the forest fire and you can't outrun the conflagration and you're being swallowed, and then a rain cloud happens to fly overhead and just dump buckets of water, the forest fire goes out. This happens. A forest fire will be blazing, they won't be able to control it, and it'll just happen to rain. And when that happens, it's a miracle. And when it doesn't happen, it's a tragedy. It's such a miracle, no one's thinking it's tragic it didn't rain on Lahaina. It's expected that, those people were going to die from that forest fire. If such a miracle had occurred, a cloud had flown over and rained, it would have just been for a century from now. People would still be talking about it. For centuries, the families that were saved by that would be talking about it. They would never be forgotten. And so the Guru is like that. He's like a cloud of mercy that is extinguishing the forest fire of material existence that is swallowing people. And it's an interesting point because sometimes we don't value knowledge as much as we should. But to be given an example of how to navigate this world, how to grow old gracefully, how to die gracefully, how to suffer reversals gracefully, how to learn from this lifetime, how to be in this world but not of this world, like the lotus, Padmaiva. Padmaiva, like a lotus. It matters. We generally don't think about this. We just take knowledge for granted. We assume it's supposed to be there, it's supposed to be free, it's easy to achieve, but such a knowledge of how to live in this world and grow and live a meaningful life, live a life of purpose, even though you're going to grow old and die, and everybody you love is going to grow old and die, and everything's going to be eventually taken away from you, enough to make somebody suicidal, enough to make somebody cry, enough to make someone panic, enough to make someone go insane, contemplating the charnel house, the slaughterhouse of material existence. But the Guru is this professor that has the power to explain that, to help you understand it, to help you navigate it, to help you succeed, even as things are being taken away from you. That knowledge is like rain. And it's like a rain of mercy, extinguishing a forest fire that nothing else can extinguish. No amount of money can end that existential dilemma of material existence. No amount of power, no amount of strength, no amount of knowledge, no amount of ordinary knowledge. There's one thing that can end it, and that is transcendental knowledge. That's why Krishna says, Tad vidhi pranipatena. You try to know this knowledge. Pranipatena, by falling down on the ground. Pariprashanena, by asking questions. Sevaya, by serving. Upadekshantite jnanam jnanina satpadarshana. Those who've seen the truth, they can point the direction out to you. Those who are wise, they can point the direction. It's such a valuable thing. And the Guru has that. And so, Vande, I'm offering my prayers, Charanara to the lotus feet, Shri Guru, of my Guru. Why? Because I am part of the loka that is samsara dava analalita, that's afflicted by the forest fire, that's being swallowed by the forest fire of samsara, of material existence. And my Guru is Ghana Ghana Tva Karunya Tranaya. I can hear you guys. Mute yourselves.
Oh, are you Mrs. Poop?
Anandini. Anandini, mute yourself. And then there's one more line. Praptasya kalyana gunanavasya. The Guru is, you could render this two ways. The Guru is an ocean of good qualities who has become a rain cloud of mercy. So it's a double glorification. Not only is the Guru that rain cloud of mercy, but the Guru is also an ocean of good qualities who's now become the rain cloud of mercy to come and help me. So even just helping us is not his only quality. He has so many additional qualities. She has so many additional qualities. But this is the one which is most prominent to me. That the Guru has become, the Guru is Gunarnava. He's an ocean of qualities. Praptasya, who's become Ghana Ghana. Karunya, who's become a rain cloud of mercy. And so it's continuing this water cycle metaphor. It's extending it. So a beautiful piece of poetry, a beautiful image is created. Alternatively, you could say that the Guru, his quality is coming from Gunarnava, from the ocean of good qualities, Krishna. And therefore Krishna is the ocean of good qualities, who has sent the Guru as his ambassador, as his agent, to bring that transcendent knowledge to the people of the world. And just as the ocean needs an intermediary between itself and the land in order to bless the land with its water and make that salt water digestible and potable. Similarly, the guru becomes the person who represents, who becomes a via medium. I was just talking to one of my friends who is a teacher. He's also my student. He's also a teacher himself. And he said, how am I supposed to help these people? He was talking about some people he was counseling. And I explained to him what was explained to me and what is the basic teaching of our tradition, and maybe it was a cornerstone of our tradition, that you have to become pure so that when people interface with you, they get Krishna. They don't just get you. So that you are able to reflect and convey as a transparent via medium something greater than yourself, namely Krishna. And then people will come to you, and by coming to you, they will come to you, but they will get Krishna from you instead of getting something else. And so our fault is when we lose sight of this. And so the guru can either be, he's an ocean of good qualities, one of which is he's become a cloud and is now helping us. Another one is the guru has received that water from Krishna, who's the ocean of mercy, the ocean of good qualities. And the guru is then the intermediary. And the thing is that we don't sometimes think about is we are in material bodies. We have material senses. And I'm almost done. 2 more minutes. We have material senses. And those material senses make it very difficult for us to perceive Krishna. The guru is in a material body like we are. And therefore, we're able to hear from him even when we can't hear directly from Krishna. And so the guru is this essential intermediary between God and man, someone who is connected to divinity enough that they can reflect divinity in this world, they can convey that mercy, that they can take that eternal language of the Veda and translate it into a language that we can understand, perhaps our modern vernacular, or they can take the examples and unpack them in a way that we would never be able to do. And they transport that knowledge to where we are. Just like if you're stuck in a mine shaft. If you're stuck in a mine shaft, you can't get out. So, and then the government, they can't pull you out like with a suction cup. Instead, they have to send someone down. They don't just drop a rope. They send someone down. They send somebody down. Somebody, one person, gets attached to a rope and lowered down, and then they attach that rope to you, and everyone gets pulled out. They're in the mine shaft. They're in the same place as you, but they're not because they're attached to the rope. They've been sent by a whole fire department, by a whole rescue team, but they're the one. They're the one you name your kids after. You don't name your kids you don't give your kid the name, San Clemente Fire Department. But if the fireman who rescued you's name is John, you name your kid John. Because on behalf of the fire department, he went down into the well to pick you up. Got close to you. And thereby you were rescued. So the guru is this agent who is transporting this ocean of good qualities into the world to people who are suffering, and that ocean of good qualities then becomes an ocean of auspicious good qualities. Kalyana gunana vasya. Or he's a praptasya kali, he's achieved auspiciousness, gunana vasya, from the ocean of good qualities. He is an ocean of good qualities who's become an auspicious rain cloud. Both interpretations are possible. And that good quality, that gunarnava, that ocean of good qualities, this is the last point I'll make. In some theories about the nature of love, sometimes it's described that compassion is love towards people who are suffering. It's not a different type of love. It's love. And love towards your family or towards your spouse is intimate love. But love towards someone who's suffering is compassionate love. And compassion is nothing but a fundamental love or care for another when that other person is in a suffering condition. So when that ocean of good qualities is transported to suffering people in the world, it becomes the cloud of mercy. Because that's what we need. We need mercy because we're stuck in the forest fire. And so this is a medieval prayer written in Sanskrit from an ashtaka. It's beautiful, and I appreciate it especially on a day like today because it conveyed the beauty and the warmth and the sweetness as opposed to the frigidity and the coldness of rain and the goodness of rain and the value of rain to us. And so because we never get such warm, balmy, summertime rain in Southern California, and in that way we're bereft of what so much of the rest of the country gets and so much of the rest of the world gets, I thought it was a nice day to reflect on this because it's a harder sell when it's cold and frigid. And it's very theoretical that the rain is good because it's a snowpack which is going to melt, but you're not going to experience that benefit till the summertime, and all you're experiencing now is the pain. It's too delayed, it's too remote, but on a day like today it's very easy. Thank you very much. Let's do a little kirtan. Hare Krishna.